Hello everyone, today I'm looking at Get in the Car Loser, and in the interest of brevity, is it good? Yes, but if you're the kind of person who has issues with gender identity, it's not for you. Is it good for the short time gamer? Yes, for the most part. Please like and subscribe, and now for the longer version. Get in the Car Loser is a cross between a JRPG battler and a visual novel, the protagonist of which is a black trans lesbian, and if that's too spicy for you, you best leave now. Have they gone yet? Good. Because it doesn't end there. The other two starting protagonists are a non-binary tank and a bisexual woman who stole a rather important artifact. And what ends up happening is a violent road trip to save the world from the Machine Devil and his minions. The Machine Devil's minions are clear analogues for strongly right-wing viewpoints, including the one repeated joke about identifying as a X and calling people snowflakes. Yeah, there's no attempt to hide what this game is about. The story has a number of profound moments, most notably when the protagonist gets misgendered and goes on a downward spiral. This pays off really well with the boss of that section where you prove how important you are through the actual gameplay. The characters in general are really good, and just the right kind of insecure mess that makes them relatable and human. So what does the game actually play like? Well, it's primarily a conversation in the car between the protagonists, but it's broken up by JRPG-style battles and little hubs where you can fill up the car, talk to a few people, and pick up the odd side job. Now, the only choices you have for movement is going on one of the 3 tracks for the car to go on, which will either be a fight or a rest point or something else. So you don't have a huge amount of choice in where to go, but it does mean you don't end up wandering around for hours until you finally pull up a guide on the internet to find out what to do next. So there's a definite argument that this helps streamline things. The JRPG battle system is time-based rather than turn-based, and you have 3 layers of options to fight with, as well as using the Sword of Fate at the end of the 3 layers to cause a bunch of stagger damage. Later in the game, you have to start looking at the elements you're hitting the enemies with, as if you match up, you can actually end up healing them instead of causing damage. And of course, in the opposite way, there are certain elements the enemies are weak against. The only issue I have with the battles is that some combinations of enemies can just be a slog. For example, there was an untargetable enemy that does pretty much full healing to the other enemy, and the other enemy doesn't really do enough damage to be a threat, so it just ends up being a kind of game of attrition through which you don't really feel like you're progressing in any direction until finally you do look out and you manage to actually get rid of them. The levelling up system is good. It makes sure you don't get over-leveled by, instead of having XP, you have money to buy trinkets, and so it's all about gearing up rather than XP. And you can only ever buy what a shop has in stock. Talking of gear, there's enough variety for you to have some quite different builds, but we're not talking Dark Souls level of variety here. Even the travelling involves some resource management, which comes more into the fore later on, where you have to balance money for fuel and the money for trinkets and healing items. So is it good for a short session? Well, you can save at any point except for in the middle of a battle. However, you can escape the battle at any time and try again. It just takes you straight back to the start, where you haven't lost any health. But if it's one of those slog battles, you might be there for 10 minutes or so that might be an issue for you. Get in the Car Loser is a fun game with a lot of LGBT representation, which I consider to be a really important thing. I hope there are more games like this in the future, and if you're interested in LGBT representation and you like JRPG battling, this would be a great choice for you. See you next time.